We'll be talking about colony collapse disorder, and I'm concerned. In fact, it's pretty darn scary. In the state of Texas alone, over 70% of the wild and the domesticated honeybee colonies have disappeared. And they're disappearing in a way that in the thousands of years of written tradition studying beekeeping, it's one of the oldest agriculture sciences out there. No one's ever seen this before. They fly off and they don't come back. In the past, colonies might get sick and then that hive might die. That's not happening. They're just disappearing or they're dying out altogether. So we'll be going over that. Serious issues like genetic engineering that the evidence is in that's causing the honeybee and many other species of insect to drop dead en masse, as well as a lot of new problems in human beings. But you're not going to find that outside scholarly reports because the global government really could care less. In fact, out of these crises that are going to be caused by it, they'll just offer you more solutions, and that's more of a micromanaged police state world. So we'll go over that for you. Speaking of global warming being a fraud, here it is, the front page of the Statesman today. Here in Austin, that's our paper. Record cold brings snow, sleet to central Texas. And I have several articles around the country. And as if the honeybee wasn't in deep enough trouble now, it was springtime across the nation. It's now wiped out what was left of the honeybees, a large portion of them. So I have reports on that, of course, as well. And the government's trying to spin now that the honeybees have all died because of cold weather that just came in the last 48 hours. So nice spin for you. Also, news on Iraq, one in the stack I have there. Iraqis flock to city for anti-U.S. war protest. Another one, London Telegraph. 5 more years in Iraq, say defense papers, for the U.S. and British troops. Of course, the real defense papers say that they're never going to leave. Permanent bases built for at least 30 years, and then a puppet governorship put in 30 years from now. So that'll be 26 years, a little under 26 years. But on the nightly news, you'll hear a completely different story, of course. That's for your general consumption. If you'd like to actually go read Pentagon documents, you'll learn they never plan to leave. The troops are never planning to go home. They lie to the troops, the American people. But you like to be lied to, so go ahead. Vote for global government and a global tax. That won't save you, and let the honeybees die. And just eat your GMO food. Doesn't matter how many top scientists and reports show that it's killing humans as well as bees. Just eat up. Boy, I tell you, there's no way to do this justice. This is such a big issue. I've spent probably 8-10 hours the last few weeks studying this. I already knew quite a bit about it. And the reason I was spurred to at least spend some time today on this is because the Associated Press and CNN and ABC News have all done pieces, and they go, well, gee, Willikers, we don't know why 70% of the bees are dead in Texas and 60% nationwide in the U.S., and gee, we don't know why they're dropping dead, and some people think it's the mite or the weather or GMO crops, or maybe it's the... Well, actually, we do have a good idea what's doing it. Number one, there are all sorts of different types of pesticides that have been used and are being used domestically, and all the chemical treatments and the rest of it, and that is causing a serious problem. People chemicalize more than is needed. I'm not saying restrict it, because you do that, there'll be certain avenues of government that'll try to shut down agriculture altogether. But we need to look for cleaner ways to do this and more organic. Now understand here, ladies and gentlemen, man-made global warming is a complete fraud. Literally 95% of the environmental groups you see are criminal organizations to steal farmers and ranchers' lands and to get water rights. They're funded by big banks, big money. You ought to go to a Smart Growth conference. They openly say it's big business, nothing to do with the earth. They're laughing. It's like being in an Al Capone meeting. The first one I went to was in '98 in Austin, Texas. And it was like 5,000 people there at the convention center, and I thought I'd entered some type of mafia zone. They were just laughing. Of course it's about money. Of course we're taking all the property. I shot video of that. We put it on the local cable channel. It blew me away. So I need to explain and make it clear that, see, this is what happens. This is how problem, reaction, solution works. The government and these top 50 or so global corporations are bigger than most governments. They care about nothing but the bottom line. They are involved in just unbelievable evil things on 1,000 fronts. And there's cold, hard data environmentally showing that they're committing these crimes. But nothing's done. So everybody gets real upset about the environment. People deep down know there's a problem with the Earth, with spaceship Earth. That's what we are, folks. This thin layer of life that lives on the surface and a few miles of breathable atmosphere above us and the seas. And people know there's a problem. I mean, 20 years ago, go to the Gulf of Mexico, you could catch your limit every time, and there were you'd see 100 shrimp boats on the horizon. Now there's 3 shrimp boats on the horizon, and it's hard to catch fish. And when my dad was little out on shrimp boats with family that had shrimp boats and stuff, when he'd go visit, there were thousands of shrimp boats. Yes, just everywhere, and you'd haul in giant fish almost every time you threw your line in. I mean, there's simple things that we don't need the government to tell us to know there's some problems going on. And then there are solutions to that and ways to deal with that. See, I want to get into the colony collapse, but I've got to set the table here or it won't make sense. Billions, not millions, billions of gallons of contaminated water filled with nickel, cadmium, heavy metals, mercury, lead, arsenic. Just type in government dumps 3 million gallons of nerve gas in the Delaware River. I mean, you can't make stuff up. Just type it into Google. It happened a couple years ago. Killed everything. They didn't care. Type nuclear reactors dumped off course in North Carolina, off coast. Type in Army dumps nerve gas stocks in Atlantic. I mean, and they're still doing it, by the way. The government does whatever it wants and then runs around regulating and taking ranches and farms and harassing people and all these new environmental crimes you're talking about in Europe going to jail for some oil on the ground, or you drop a battery in your backyard, a little battery. We're talking a couple years in prison. Meanwhile, hundreds of genetic engineering firms, bioengineering firms, are wildly on assembly lines cross-species chimeras. I've interviewed Nobel Prize winners, top scientists. It comes out in major publications that, they made a pig that's 15% human and it gave rise to a super virus and we don't know what to do. And, the Texas company, Protegene, in 97 locations, planted live corn that grows live HIV in it. And bees picked it up and spread it to other corn. And, the government, literally, this was 5 years ago, sent in guys. It was on environmental websites and government sites in spacesuits. Spacesuits. They didn't stop it. It spread. Okay, it spread. Thousands of these. There's no way for me to even cover it. Okay, I can't even tell you how bad it is. And then the young, 15, 20-year-old, whatever, comes to your door and knocks on it, the college student, and wants money for Greenpeace or money for Nature Conservancy or money for Sierra Club, all for land grabbing, all for restricting human development, all for government control. Meanwhile, they're dumping nerve gas in the ocean and cross-species engineering. And they've got German university studies, they've got zoological insect studies, they've got Chinese studies, they got French studies, they got American studies, they got CDC studies, and I've got the things all right here in my hands. And I could read these till the end of the show in an hour and 20 minutes from now. It is unbelievable. Here's the AP. Disappearing bees stump beekeepers. Yeah. See, that headline isn't a lie. It's stumping the beekeepers. It's not stumping the scientists, but, okay. We're the breadbasket of the world, though now we import more food than we produce. No longer. See, it's all about dependence. It's all about bankrupting the family farmer. It's all about using federal regulators to shut them down. Fake environmental laws that do nothing while they're involved in Island of Dr. Moreau, Mingala, crazy science fiction movie behavior that's already caused critical breakdowns in the biosphere. And certainly the Earth will go on. Life is resilient. But I do like diversity. I don't want to cause a bunch of things to go extinct. I don't want to breathe genetically engineered wheat and corn pollen, which top studies are showing is causing all the allergies. It's just adding to it. My grandmother never had allergies. She's 82 years old. She's got them now. Everybody I know's got them. Everybody I know can't breathe, man. It's because there's no bees in Texas. We're the worst in the country. Over 70% gone. They eat the pollen. And trees respond when there aren't bees by producing more pollen. So you're huffing it. That's what I've got studies on that. Last hour, I was talking about genetic engineering. And cross-species is very dangerous because it gives rise to superviruses, new bacteria. Causes chain reactions in the food chain that can kill a lot of animals. The honeybee the European bee, as well as some of the domestic forms of bees, are disappearing, are dying, and it's extremely serious. It's happening all over the world where a lot of pesticides are used, where this Asian mite's been introduced, but it's being accelerated, and they're finding a connection to total die-off where they've been exposed to just one type of Monsanto, BT corn. Now, again, Starlink corn had been altered and caused serious illnesses in those that accidentally ate it. Remember hearing about that? I mean, this stuff's really, really serious. But humans are a lot bigger, a lot stronger. A bee's kind of a canary in the coal mine. And they pollinate things. They allow plants to continue the reproductive cycles, and not just the food crops, but everything from oak trees to flowers to the bluebonnets. It's extremely serious, and it goes on to say that they found in different university studies, we have several here that found the same thing, and Der Spiegel's reported on it, the Chinese reported on it. It's been in some of our newspapers, but it's still not popularly known, and that is there's a clear link to the bacteria genetics they put into the corn, causing a autoimmune response, a lack of autoimmune response in the digestive tract of the bee. And for those that don't know, bees eat pollen and then they regurgitate it to store it for the winter. And so you need to understand, folks, that that's also why there's so much pollen now. 70% of the bees gone. I think it's more than that. I mean, where are they? I think I've seen like one bee since spring started. In fact, I was outside my office, outside my house, and I'm looking for bees. I'm going to flowers. And where are the bees? When I was a kid, every flower would have bees on it. Where are they? I think I've seen like one or two bees. This is a big deal. But meanwhile, please don't hear me talk about this. And then when some 18-year-old college student knocks on your door and says, "I'm here from the Nature Conservancy. The earth is dying. The salamander's in trouble. Will you sign up to give us $50 a month to help get ordinances passed to protect our earth?" All they did was go and take farmers and ranchers' land back in the mid and late 90s. First, they wouldn't let them build on it or use it. Then they sold it for pennies on the dollar. Then they take the restrictions off and build five-star spas and million-dollar ranchettes. Total fraud. The environmental movement is a criminal group of degenerates. Okay, I've studied them. I know more about that than I know about genetic engineering. I've interviewed all the experts. I've seen the horrors. I've seen what they do. It's a land-grabbing socialist group bankrolled by the big banks. And again, the low-level environmentalists, they mean well, folks. But they're taught, don't let highways be built and restrict development. Don't let people farm and ranch, and don't do this and that. You see? Instead of don't dump nerve gas in the ocean and don't cross species and then have no idea what it's going to do and just plant it in the open air. If the Nature Conservancy knocked on my door and was introducing legislation and lobbying and said we are trying to criminally go after Protegene for planting in the open air in 90-plus locations live pharmacological corn that had live AIDS virus in it, HIV virus, before you roll your eyes, go Google it. I'm done talking about the bees. Just type colony collapse disorder, type bees into a search engine, and just click news and go do a few hours of research. No, but you're not going to do that. You saw video on the news this year of polar bears stranded on ice. They can't swim. They're going to die. Polar bears can swim up to 300 miles. They routinely swim 100 miles. They go to ice floes to hunt whale. They can haul in a beluga that weighs twice their size. They're just the most powerful creature on the land I've ever heard of. Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, you don't believe me? Just type polar bear killing beluga into YouTube. You'll get hundreds of clips. I was doing research. My wife walks in and goes, "What are you watching this horrible bloodiness for?" And I go, "I'd heard they could haul in a beluga. I didn't believe it." You can watch one with one arm, go, yeah, right into the water and just pull a beluga out, a huge white whale, and start gobbling it. "Oh, the bear can't swim." No, it can just swim 300 miles in the Arctic Ocean. I mean, the earth, we better do something. Global warming, we're all dead. Ah! The UN proposes a carbon tax. Washington Post, a new idea just came up. Oh, no, I read it in UN documents 12 years ago. A carbon tax, a tax on you to global government that has nothing to do with polar bears. Let me tell you what's dying. The honeybees, ladies and gentlemen, not the polar bears. Their population has exploded.